The RC School Principles are a document that just came out in the second version to help us to live out what it means to be a Regnum Christi school. As you know, there's a little bit of history behind this and where it came from. The Ideario in Spanish was the first document which was developed in 2015 in a gathering of representatives from Regnum Christi schools from around the world. After that first document came out, there was a gathering of representatives from our schools in North America who wanted to take that document, digest it, adapt it to the reality of the schools in North America. And then a smaller committee worked to develop that. It was approved initially by the Regnum Christi Territorial Committee ad experimentum on a trial basis in August of 2016. After that time, each of the schools worked to implement the document, and we gathered feedback over those next 16 months, seeing what was working, what wasn't, what things needed to be more precise, what things could be clarified. And we, in gathering that feedback, we then put together another session, another draft version of the document, which we went over in the Leadership Summit in September, both in small groups and then feedback in the larger group. Based on that, and then some work that we had to do to align the RC School accreditation process with the practicalities of the RC School Principles, we came up with the final draft version, which was presented to the Regnum Christi Territorial Committee and approved on December 21st. So version 2.0 is now live, and you're called to bring it alive in your school. What's new in the document? A quick highlight of some of the novelties, the adaptations. First of all, there's an introduction that didn't exist before, explaining the nature of the document, how it ties in with the RC School accreditation process, etc. Secondly, and probably one of the most important substantial elements within the document, is the clarification of the hierarchy of relationships within the school. Noting that the teacher-student relationship is foundational, the relationship between an educator and the student is vital. Educator being, of course, anyone who's contributing to the education of the students, be that a formation director, a chaplain, a teacher, a PE instructor. All those are educators in the broad sense who are contributing and vital to the education process. But also recognizing that every member of the school community, whether it's the janitor or the receptionist or someone who works in the back office and administration, they all play a role in communicating in a complementary way the formative process within the school. So all that was clarified in the new document. We also added a reference to ECYD, which didn't exist in the prior version, beefed up the pastoral dimension, which was a little bit underdeveloped in the prior version, and then made a few additions to align with the RC School accreditation process findings. All of these things are what's new in the new edition. What do these principles mean for your school? First of all, I think it gives you a firm foundation to know this is what it means to be a Regnum Christi school. It's also a clear reference point. You need to point out to a board member or to new staff that you are bringing on to understand the nature of the school and its mission. It's a tool for alignment and communication, and making sure your mission statement is aligned with this, that you're all on board as a team, and using this in communication with parents, with the broader community, etc. It's a goal to aspire towards. It's important to have something that we're aiming towards in our work, because our motto is Semper Autus, always higher. And then, of course, it is a beautiful point of unity with all other Regnum Christi schools, not only nationwide, but worldwide. Remembering that we're a network of over 200 schools that share the same spirit and are trying to do the same things with this beautiful Catholic identity lived out in such an individual way. What are some best practices for implementation? Well, this is where you all come in.
For everybody to report. So that was how I was going to start with that.
Great.
Father Daniel, sorry, I got caught on a phone call, so I'm just now jumping on here, but I did catch what the question was. We haven't had a chance to, as a school community, to dive into this new revised version, but with the previous version, with our faculty and staff, we did one of our faculty meetings, spent a whole hour giving them a section and to read, and then have a group discussion on it with a couple questions answered, just to, for one, get the document known, get the teachers thinking along these lines. And we've also used it as a reference in some of our looking at as we're looking at how we can improve our formation here at the school, using this, taking this and the different sections of it as the guidelines.
Great.
So at Clearwater, we started the first day back with all the teachers in August. We did a morning with a review and a pretty in-depth review of the RC school principals with all the teachers, with sort of a variety of different school leadership presenting different sections, and then having some back and forth conversations with the teachers. And then we did a little review of that at a professional development day for maybe just about an hour, just to kind of keep it top of mind. And then on the RC education side, yesterday and on Wednesday with the admissions directors conference that we had in Calgary, we spent the morning on Wednesday reviewing the RC school principals together as admissions directors, just to keep very top of mind what it is obviously that we are all about, what is our mission, and working into how do we articulate that to prospective families.
Excellent.
At Clearwater as well, we also did a strategic session in October and reviewed it with the board again. And it's one of the key strategies in our in our strategic plan is the defining principles document. And I've also shared it with our Bishop McGrattan. So he had a good understanding of what we were doing at Clearwater.
So what was the reaction of the bishop?
He appreciated it. It was a follow-up.
Right.
He had done a session on Catholic education, and I mean, he really could have taken our defining principles document and read from it. It's very aligned with how he speaks of Catholic education and the importance of Catholic education. So he just thanked me for sending it to him.
That's great. Good. Anyone else have something that they've done at their school?
So it's Greg at Everest. I don't think my camera's working. So
No, it's not.
there's a big blotch that I can see that has my name on it. I apologize. Kind of similar to what Father Daniel Ray said, we are going to be, have not yet begun actually, but we're going to be spending some time with professional development meetings.
Greg, you may need to speak up a little bit more. You're a bit muffled on your.
We're going to be spending some time in some of our professional development meetings with the faculty to go through these. Have not done it to this point, but now that we have the version that looks like it's maybe in its polished form, we're going to spend some time going through the document with the faculty, piece by piece, so that we can all understand it better together, and then also use it. There's another project that we just kind of here. This coming semester, by which we're looking at having departments get together and create plans and look at their department programs as relates to integral formation together, top to bottom, with a handful of elements that we're including in that rubric. And this is going to be one of the guiding documents that we, after we discuss it, that we use for that project. So hopefully it'll help out there as well.
Excellent. That's good. Okay. Kathleen, you want to mention anything from Pinecrest?
Well, the only thing that I would mention right now is we would call leadership teams or formation teams, whatever nomenclature you'd like to use in each of the schools, which includes lower school and then middle school and then high school. And those teams came together one full day to do some analysis of what they're actually doing. And so we're trying to become aware of the different things that they're doing to do a better program this coming year. This goes back in October, the end of October, actually
Right.
second week of October. And so not only analyzing what they're doing, but analyzing which one of those activities actually correspond to the goals and RC education principles. Okay, obviously using the previous edition. And then this semester, the second step is to take that analysis and the RC principles to choose the most high impact in terms of evangelizing and forming 3 different groups of people, which are the teachers, the students, and the parents for those 3 schools. And then the third step, from what they put together in the 3 separate school leadership team or formation teams, is to take a look at that at the school level. In other words, Dr. Linda Kugel, the headmaster, to make a plan that goes from, that's a constant plan from the time that the children enter preschool through 12th grade, so that it's something which is much more coherent and according to the RC principles, and goes in a really clear developmental line. So it's really an analysis by each of the school leadership teams of their reality and the RC principles. Mm-hmm.
Great. Anyone else have something that they would like to share? What's worked? Any particular difficulties that anyone has faced? Maybe apathy or just ignorance, or you just haven't taken the time to do it because your schedule's so busy?
Well, Father Daniel, maybe the one thing that we will all I'll have to struggle with a little bit is the fact that this is the highest level document for our schools, and this is not where we live on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
The teachers' heads aren't at this level, and so it's like how maybe if anyone has any great ideas about how to get it into the subsequent levels of the thought and I know it'll be baked into the curriculum, it'll be baked into other things that we do, our pastoral plans and things like that. But to have this be a living, breathing document, it risks being very much a wonderful thing we've all read and studied, and then we pull it out once a year when we do strategic planning or something.
I think that's a first step, Father Daniel, is that it becomes the basic structure when you're looking at your planning for the year. 2 other things that we're doing from RC Education to help you in this regard. When we do our site visits, which we'll be visiting almost all of your schools this next semester, this forms the framework for what we're looking at when we're there for the visit. So the checklist that we sent all of you as the things that we're going to be looking at during the visit, it makes very clear reference to the RC School Principles document, and then also to the RC School accreditation process, which is the second main thing, which will help bring this down to the real level of the teachers. Because when you've got to go through the accreditation process, obviously it requires more reflection, seeing how we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
That was, if I could just add to that, that's why I've waited to really share this in depth with my teachers, because having the accreditation document brings it to a more practical level that the teachers can relate to and understand. So I'm looking forward to when you present it to the teachers on the higher level, and then we can go into the accreditation document to see how we actually are implementing it in the classrooms.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, Margaret.
Father Daniel, we're trying to, if we can, take the document and put it into a one-pager that would be given as a for our faculty, for parents, our community, to have a better understanding of who we are. But how do you take the sort of the real highlights out of this and put it into a one-pager? Yeah, we'll see where that goes. And that's actually been a directive of our board, that they appreciate the document, but for people to understand it needs to be simpler.
Mm-hmm.
How do we communicate that?
If you come up with something good as a one-pager, that'd be great to share with the rest of the schools then, Bill.
Yeah, for sure.
That'd be very helpful. Let me show you really quickly. We've been actually working on a better layout of the document. Let's see if I've got it here. For some reason it's not showing, but let's see. So here the document that we sent out didn't have any of the special formatting yet, but we'll be sending this out. Makes it a little bit longer, but it's a little more prettier, I should say. So you're all seeing this, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So it's the same text, just looks a little bit crisper, a little nicer. So we'll send this out to you all very soon as well. And we're looking into the possibilities of printing it or setting it up on on CreateSpace on Amazon, so that people can just order the books and actually have a physical copy in front of them. Sometimes that is very helpful, particularly when if you're handing it out in service to teachers or something of that nature. So hopefully that will be an additional help for all of you. Okay. Then let's come back to the slideshow for a moment here. We've talked a little bit about some of the best practices. What are some possible next steps at each of your schools? Maybe schedule a session to review your mission statement in light of the RC School Principles, if you feel that's necessary. You could utilize the principles at the next professional development session for staff and teachers, or maybe even design a component that you go over a small section of the RC School Principles every time that you have an in-service or professional development session with your school leadership. Review with the local school board. I know that Bill, you mentioned that you had done that with your board. I think that was a great idea. And then obviously we can also help out, as Margaret mentioned, when we do our site visit to your schools this next semester. If you see that it would be helpful, we could do a presentation of myself and Elena to your whoever you need within the school community to transmit more detail of the principles or the background or how to understand them. Okay. And the secret revelation here is the RC School accreditation process was just approved yesterday. So to complete what Margaret Richardson was mentioning as far as making this a reality, I mean, how do we actually maintain, verify, and promote the RC School Principles? The only really effective way to do it is through this type of accreditation process. And this is something that we developed collaboratively over the last 6 months. Initial input was sought from the schools. We compared existing standards and benchmarks with all different types of organizations out there, everything from the Jesuits to Advanced Ed to the Catholic schools standards that have been drafted for Catholic schools across the country. Then taking all of those different elements and the RC School Principles, put together an initial draft. We vetted it with all of you in September, and subsequently when Elena and Iso were visiting the schools, we presented it to you in September, and then we worked on it for those last few months to get the final presentation, which was approved just yesterday. So hot off the press, we haven't even sent it out to you yet officially, but it will be coming, and we will be discussing this more when we visit each of your schools this semester.
That's great.
So that is all that I have to present. I don't know if anyone has any questions or further points that they'd like to clarify or get insights on.
Maybe when the accreditation process is going to actually start?
Great question. So the idea is that this, we won't officially start the visits until next school year, but in the visits of this next semester, we'll already be using the RC School Principles and the accreditation process to begin introducing them to your staff, to the boards, so people become familiarized with these are the basic criteria that we will be using going forward. So you can look forward to that in the kind of assimilation period over the next 6 months. Next school year, we will set the more official calendar, definitive calendar for when the official accreditation visits begin. Now, given the number of schools and the complexity of the process and the learning process that we're going to go through, it may be 2 years before we have the first accreditation that actually takes place. But we will set the calendar for those visits this next summer when we're setting our actually a little bit early, we'll set our plan probably in March, April timeframe, and then work with all of you to nail down that calendar. If you recall from reading that document in the draft forms, the process calls for peer evaluation. So many of you will be asked to to go on one of those visits to another school. So Father Daniel Ray is going to show up in Canyon Heights. So he can do
That's
some
great. Love it.
hiking.
Love it.
And he's going to participate in the visit out there, or vice versa. Or, Bill's going to go to Manila, and show up there to help in the Philippines with their project, or whatever it is. Or Kathleen, maybe you want to go to Korea, who knows? Those are the things we have to work out in the specifics of the calendar. So I don't know if that answers your question, Margaret.
Yeah, it does. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Any other questions? I can see that Father Daniel's had a long school day. I'm kind of feeling the same. You're on mute, Father. I can't hear you. So
It's 2:30 here. I feel like nap time's coming on. I'm ready to.
okay. Well, we won't prolong the torture any longer for you here. Unless anyone has any last-minute questions, we can close with a prayer.
Father Daniel, I see this is recording. Can you like just forward the link to that? I want to, before I do fall asleep, if you send it to me, I'll be able to watch it right now before I.
Well,
yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't record the first part, so I'm going to have to re-record the first section, the first slides. But I'll splice it all together and then I'll send it out to y'all.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, and thanks to the reminder. Kathleen reminded me that I needed to record it. So, okay, any other questions? Okay, great. Well, let's close with a prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. We give you thanks, Almighty God, for all your benefits, living and reigning now and forever.
Amen.
Christ our King,
Thy kingdom come.
Virgin most prudent Mary, Mother of the Church.
Pray for us.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Everybody, if you could pray for me on the 25th, it's my 25th anniversary of consecration. So,
Yay.
Congratulations, Kathleen.
Thanks.
Great.
Okay.
Bye.
God bless you all. Bye-bye.